Korean Air is axing certain flights from its network, United Airlines is purchasing new aircraft, and Air Canada has its own struggles. One up in there with the Canadian flag carrier publishing its quarterly results, and its performance has been affected by a drop in bookings. The Canadian flag carrier says that bookings towards the United States are declining, with drops just above 10%. Air Canada's drop in demand for the United States shouldn't necessarily be a shock, considering the political tensions that have ensued since the beginning of 2025 and the change in administration that caused a lot of what we've seen unfold. The flag carrier published those lower first quarter revenue results than forecasted and adjusted its profit forecast as demand continues to drop, which is impacting its long-term approach. While there remains drops, one of the biggest challenges is the uncertainty across the business in predicting just what will occur, not just every month, but even on a daily basis. You can make the argument that politics aside, global pandemics aside, supply chains aside, it's hard to predict a day-to-day, and I would totally agree with you, as many would, but no doubt what we have seen unfold in really now the first half of this year has been striking. Customers' reasons for not flying to the US has varied greatly, but the undoubtedly overarching theme that the airline sees at least is a boycotting element from Canadians towards the US, which extends even as far as products. That's not everyone, but certainly a small portion. Overall, Air Canada reported a loss of $102 million for their first quarter of 2025, despite operating revenue remaining steady at $5.196 billion. This was just a 1% reduction year over year. Air Canada did see operating expenses rise by 2%, equating to $89 million. The cost increase remains a persistent challenge right around the industry as airlines find ways to mitigate this and still record profits. Unfortunately, uncertainty also stretching towards fuel prices, let alone how demand will fare in some of its most important markets, meant the airline posted results that were not likely what it may have initially forecast. Other areas, such as the price of aircraft parts and key planes as well, are another cause for concern as tariffs placed on the country have only increased overall price points placed on them. Looking ahead, they hope that operating revenues will reach around $30 billion by 2028 and then exceed $30 billion by 2030. Overall, the flag carrier certainly still focuses in on growth, but knows that there are challenges in its operating environment that may ultimately make it harder to achieve the results that it would in an ideal scenario, but this is part and parcel of being in the aviation industry. You are thrown curveballs on a monthly basis. It's important to navigate these and come out the other side in a much more better position, or at the very least, staying around the same point and then building when things do smoothen out. Staying within North America but moving to the US, United Airlines has increased its commitment to the A321neo program thanks to a new purchase. The deal was actually initially placed on the 10th of March 2025, however, it was listed as an undisclosed customer on the Airbus orders and deliveries site with 40 units for the A321neo program selected. However, as flagged by Aviation Week, by the time Airbus then went forward and published its orders and deliveries for April, well, the undisclosed customer was removed for United Airlines. A purchase of 40 units does strengthen their commitment to Airbus's now most important single-aisle series in recent times and helps for them at least aid their renewal and growth ambitions. United Airlines will progressively rely more on the A321neo program, with the next generation efficiency being a game changer for their fleet and ops. The capacity as well, which is a jump on some of their existing planes that are being retired, is very beneficial across markets as we see demand in time only continue to increase. The US carrier already has 37 of your A321neos in operation, averaging 0.7 years of age. It is therefore the youngest fleet type and is showing the airline just what the future can truly start to look like as planes begin being retired. In the short term, US carriers and Airbus have expressed concerns about how deliveries will take place without additional costs, given tariffs and other issues. To mitigate costs, Airbus and Delta, for example, have now seen an A350-900 and A330neo delivered via Japan, but United Airlines would certainly be hopeful that this remains only a short-term concern and smoothens out in due course. The A321neo has enjoyed a rapid rise in recent times with colossal commitments from leading airlines around the world, as airlines have sought to renew their fleets and have realized that Boeing's new middle-of-the-market airliner isn't coming. A compromise has been required required. Airbus pounced on the lack of solid competition in this space and committed quite heavily to developing the A321neo program further by adding jets such as the XLR, pushing the boundaries previously laid out for single-aisle planes. Now, the additional capacity on the A321 platform provides over outgoing previous-gen jets is being deemed as very beneficial, and airlines are coming back, purchasing them in numbers. Across recent years, the A321neo program has consistently been the best performing plane, and United Airlines' latest purchase for the aircraft highlights their own belief that this single-aisle jet is going to take them places for future decades. Over to the final story, and Korean Air is reducing its international network in response to its inability to acquire next-generation aircraft on time. Highlighted by local South Korean media agencies and backed up by further flight data, the stark contrast to the frequency before the global pandemic is very much present. Most notable airports affected were not just Incheon, but also stretching more towards some of regionally located airports with naturally fewer operations, but still significantly important ones. Data shows that there were at times reductions of over 40% compared to the scheduled offered in 2019, with more flights being axed over the, last couple of weekends. We know that Korean Air is in the process of renewing its fleet and has not been afraid to discuss how the lack of available planes has affected its ability to scale up operations, and it would have intended to do it all if it had gone according to plan. But when has anything really gone according to plan? It never really does. Thanks to data provided by the Land Ministry, other reductions occurred really from places such as Gimpo, around a 45% drop here. For Korean Air, the axing of flights can be attributed to several complications across their business, none more so, they'd argue, than the inability to take delivery of commercial aircraft on time. The renewal of their fleet, as I touched on, is ongoing. However, there definitely remains a focus still on trying to grow and meet new demand, with the acquisition of aircraft really driven purely for growth purposes. Unfortunately, following the COVID-19 pandemic and the many supply chain issues that have emerged, well, plane makers have not been able to ship off planes as quickly as they may have intended to do so, and as a result, with production rates having fallen beyond what was forecasted, and weekly the output therefore being reduced, it's led to hefty delays for aircraft in question heading to the likes of Korean Air. For some, it's resulted in the retention of older planes that cannot do the job adequately, but at the very least are a short-term solution to try and limit market share drops. But not every airline is capable of doing this, and Korean Air certainly feels that it is lacking the planes it should have. Away from their struggles in taking on new delivery, they also have made the realization that while there's been very solid recovery across many international markets, there are some still specifically that have not returned to what they once were. Data certainly points to flying between some of your more regional South Korean airports and China as a market that has been very slow to recover and has affected their need to, operate maybe from regional markets. Instead, they feel that they are better poised to focus on more international departures on a long-haul basis from Incheon. Thanks for watching, take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next recap.
And we'll fly.